Hi and welcome back to my studio. It's Dr. Bunce here. Welcome to a new tutorial today. So this one is for Beethoven's Ode to Joy. Now this is going to be a two-part tutorial because Ode to Joy is suitable for any age group. Indeed, you first learn to play Ode to Joy at school in year 3. It's the second piece I teach you after Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. And then we revisit it right at the end of school in year 6 where we add an accompaniment to it. So this video will do both of those things today. It'll teach you the Ode to Joy, or at least give you a refresher if you've already learnt it. And at the end of the video I'll be addressing how to add chords and an accompaniment. So let's actually have a look at the piece, shall we? First thing you'll notice is it's a standard sheet divided down the middle, and you'll remember that the reason why we do that is because if there are two of you sitting at a keyboard, one of you can read one side and one of you can read the other. The next thing you'll notice is it has 4 lines, but before we go any further, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to pause the video and spot whether you can see any patterns in the music. So stop the video and see whether you can spot any patterns in the music. If you just stop the video, hopefully you'll have spotted that the first and third line are exactly the same music, so that's going to make it easy to learn. Instead of being 4 lines to learn, you've actually only got 3. But if you look closely, the second and fourth are very similar to each other. They're not exactly the same, but they're very similar. Now I'm going to play the red side of the sheet, so I'm going to play it up in the red end of the keyboard. I've got over here, so we'll see the notes moving up and down as you hear them. And I'll play the whole of the Ode to Joy. I'll tell you which line I'm on, so here goes. First line. Second line. Third line. Fourth line. Now the keen-eyed among you might have spotted another pattern in the Ode to Joy, and that is that it only actually has 5 different musical notes in it. C, D, E, F and G. A and B are missing. This is going to be really useful for us later when we talk about the 5-finger position, what we call in school a keyboard level 3 when I'm assessing you. So we'll talk about the levels later, but let's just have a look at the piece line by line. So I'm just going to look at the first line. Now the rhythm to the first line is just like a standard walking sound. It just plods along like that. Each note is the same length. So it's a very basic rhythm. Let's have a listen to that. Did you hear that? So let's listen to that again. Very ploddy rhythm, isn't it? Let's have a listen to the second line. C, C, D, E, E, D, D. Did you notice a long note in there? See if you can spot it. It's the second D, isn't it? And then you have a short D afterwards. So the second D is a long note, and then a short D is following it. So it's C, C, D, E, E, D, D. So you have that really, really short note in there as well. Now, of course, the third line is going to be exactly the same as the second line. So let's have a listen to that. And the last line. Listen to that last line one more time. Now, you may have spotted that although the notes, the pitches to the second and fourth line are different, the rhythm is exactly the same. So the shorts and longs of the notes is exactly the same for the second and the fourth line. Let's have a listen. If I clap the second line, here's the fourth line. So there you go. The second and fourth line are exactly the same in terms of rhythm, just the pitches are different. Right, let's have a look at my keyboard. I'm playing it up in the red here, and I talked earlier about this idea of 5-finger technique, or level 3. Now, to remind you how the levels work, for level 1, you can use any hand. So when you're starting to learn a piece, it's always a good idea to just see what happens. Maybe use your right hand a bit, maybe use your left hand a bit, maybe use alternate fingers. Some of you like to do that. It doesn't really matter for a level 1. That's just while you're getting a feel for the music. For a level 2, you have to use your right hand. You must use your right hand for a level 2. And that's because eventually we want you to play all the tunes with your right hand only. So for a level 2, you may even just use one finger. It might look something like this, for example. Now you may have noticed I actually made a little mistake there, but I didn't stop. That's something else we talk about in music, isn't it? If you make a mistake, it's really important you don't stop. Because if you were playing along with someone, you would then fall behind them. So when I made that little mistake, I tried to carry on. So that's level 2. Level 3 is 5-finger technique. Again, it's your right hand, and we number the fingers as we did in other pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, with the thumb being 1. You can always remember it because thumb and 1 rhyme. The same would apply to the left hand if we were numbering those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But right hand for level 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what you're going to need to do is line your fingers up, because we already know that the piece has 5 different notes. 5 different notes. So you can line your fingers up with the thumb on the C, finger 2, finger 3 on the E, finger 4, finger 5. Now make sure your fingers are nice and bent. Pretend you're almost gripping like a ball. So nice and bent fingers. You shouldn't be able to see your nails if you're doing this properly. And then I'll play the piece all the way through. Okay, so you could play this piece in any colour you like because it only uses one colour. Unlike some of our other pieces that change colour, this only uses one colour. You can see it's all red on the right hand side of the sheet, or all blue on the left. So you could, if you wanted, play in any single colour as long as you just stick to one. And of course you could try it as a duet if you have someone at home that can play along with you. I would always suggest that if you're playing it as a duet, sing or say the letters as you play them, like this. E, E, F, G, G, F, E, D. Because it'll help you keep up with the person, because you'll both know where you are then. Right, the other thing I'd like to just show you is, while we're thinking about this level 3, 5 fingers, is you can actually change the music into a number pattern. Just have a think about this. So if we put our fingers on the notes, like that, you can change it. Instead of it being E, E, F, G, which would be, you can change that to the numbers of the fingers. 3, 3, 4, 5. It's a different way of thinking about it. So then the line becomes 3, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 2. Now what I'd suggest is you go away and you learn to play the tune. Work on the first line, get it absolutely perfect. Then do the second line, get that absolutely perfect. Then put the two together. Work through the whole piece like that. Then if you want to come back and do some of the Year 6 work with the chords, you're more than welcome to. Welcome back to part 2 of the Ode to Joy tutorial. Now you may notice in the title up there that it's Ode to Joy by Beethoven. Now in Year 3 we did talk about who Beethoven was. Beethoven lived between 1770 and 1827, and he was born in a town called Bonn in Germany, and he then moved to Vienna in Austria. He was a very, very famous musician, very talented pianist playing the piano, a very talented composer, someone who writes music. He was kind of the pop star of the day. Beethoven has a bit of a sad story behind him because as he got older he went totally deaf, meaning that he could no longer hear even his own music. So that would have been very hard on him being a musician. And in fact I'd invite you to have a look online and see what facts you can find out about Beethoven, because his life was very interesting. Now you may think, well, if he died in 1827, we're now in 2020, that's a long time ago. But in fact his music has survived the test of time. It's become increasingly popular over the years. And today you can hear his music played on the radio still, and you hear it in films and in television as well. And the Ode to Joy is one of those famous pieces that keeps popping up in different places. So it's really worth learning. Now I did say to you that there was a kind of an extension task with this piece. This is the sheet I give to the Year 6. Both of these sheets that you've seen today can be found on the website at the usual address. Do see my other video that I created showing you how to set up your keyboards, how to find the musical scores, and how to use an online piano if you're not sure where to find these scores. So let's have a look at this sheet first. First thing you'll notice is that at the top of the sheet there is obviously the title and Beethoven's name, and then we have a series of 4 lines of boxes. The first line, the second line, the third and the fourth. You'll probably recognise the notes that are in red because that's what you have just learnt to play, the Ode to Joy. But underneath those notes, you'll notice there are notes in boxes. those notes are going to form the accompaniment. Now, accompaniment is one of our special terms in music that we use. It's written on the music room wall. It means background sounds or supporting sounds that go under the tune. So far we've learnt the tune. We're now going to look at how to learn the accompaniment. So let's see what those boxed notes mean. They're in square brackets. Well, first thing you probably spot is there's only two different types of notes written in black squared brackets. There are C's and there are G's. So I put them in black because they can be played anywhere on the keyboard as long as it's under the main tune. So if you're playing the tune in red, you can play those black notes, those black squared notes, in either green, in blue, or in purple. If you're playing the tune, the main tune to the Ode to Joy in green, in this area of the keyboard, then you want to make sure that those accompaniment notes are down here or somewhere down here. They have to be under the tune. Right, so with those notes C and G, I'm only going to need to use two fingers. And you'll notice that they line up with the notes above in the tune. So as I play the E of the right hand, which is the first note, you're also, the sheet tells you, supposed to be playing a low C underneath it, like that. And then as you move through the tune, you get to the second G in the red. As you play that, you're supposed to also play a low G. So they line up. Whenever they line up on the vertical, that means you're going to play those notes together. If I play just the accompaniment, it would sound like this. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll notice that the notes are really quite long notes because they're only an accompaniment, and that sounded on its own quite a boring piece of music because it needs the tune. So first thing you can do is you can learn to just play those, what we call the bass notes. They're called bass because bass means in music they're low sounds. We would call this a bass line because it's a line of bass notes. That might sound something like this if I put the two hands together. Sounding better and better, isn't it? There is a further extension you can do. Rather than just playing it as a bass line, so a single C and a G in the left hand, you can make those into what we call chords. Now the definition of a chord is two or more notes played together. Usually at school we consider it to be three notes played together, and the way you form a chord is you look at the instruction that's given to you. So in this case, at the very start, we're asked to play a C as the accompaniment in the square bracket. We could make a C chord from that. So you need to start with a C, like that, and then you add a note above it, two notes above it, an E, and then you add two notes above it again, a G. So those three notes, the C, E, and G, when they're played together, like this, they form what is called a C chord. It's named after the lowest note. Now you'll notice I'm playing these all in blue at the moment, the blue keys on my keyboard, C, E and G, playing them together. So the other chord I need is a G chord. So I would start with a G as the lowest note. I would then need a note two notes above it, which is a B, and two notes above that, which is a D. Playing those three notes together forms a G chord. Again, it's named after its lowest note, the note that's furthest left in the chord. So that's how chords work. If you're finding playing it with a bass line, just the single C and G against the tune pretty easy, why not add in the chords? Did you notice though that while the C chord can be played all in one colour, the G chord goes across two colours. In this case it has two notes in blue and one note in green. So I'm now going to play the Ode to Joy chords. Let's have a look at me playing them. I'm going to use my right hand for now, just out of ease. But I'll play those three notes, and then it's a G chord, and then it's a C chord, and then it's a G chord, and You want to practice with your left hand ideally, alternating between those two. Let me show you. See how fast you can do it. If you're having piano lessons, your piano teacher would tell you to use in your left hand 1, 3 and 5 to play those notes, so the odd fingers. But in fact, if you're struggling using those fingers, particularly if you're young, you might like to use 1, 2, 3. I've seen children do this before and this can be very effective. It's certainly not the best way of doing it, and it's not the correct way, but it will get you through in the early days, in the early stages. I also suggest using what's called the claw technique. So let me show you how that works. I've already been using it, but let me show you what I mean. The claw technique is where you make sure you keep your fingers locked as you change chords. A lot of people make the mistake of doing this. They play the first chord, let me use this technique. Then as they move to the second chord, they relax their hand. And now they've lost the shape of the chord. And I have to find it again before I can play it. Whereas in fact if you use the claw technique and keep the shape as you move, it makes it a lot easier. And it's the same with the proper technique as well. Right, with the sheet that's over the other side there, I'm going to play the Ode to Joy, right hand in red, and I'm going to play the chords this time. So the chords with my left hand, and it would sound like this. We're nearly at the end of today's tutorial now, so you've learnt to play the tune to the Ode to Joy, and some of you might have even tried doing the bass line to it, or the chords that I showed you on the Year 6 sheet. To finish off, I'm going to play a recording of an accompaniment that I've done to the Ode to Joy that will allow you to play the tune over the top. You won't be able to fit the chords to this because I've changed the chords, but it will allow you to play the tune over the top and have the experience of playing along with someone else. While that's being played, on the screen will be the main sheet, so you might like to use that to refer to. But for now, I hope you're all doing well. Take care, and I'll see you next time.